Welcome back to another episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. The show where we have honest conversations and grounded conversations like this about the inner work, about being well in real life. My name is Sayan, as most of you would know, and today I'm in conversation with Corey Dissin. He is the force behind Knockout Life and high performance coaching, where he helps driven professionals ditch the fluff and finally get unstuck. He spent nearly 3 decades leading massive media projects before flipping the script and building a coaching system that's rooted in grit, structure, and consistent action. Also, he's the founder of Doing the Distance, part of Memoir, part Fight Plan for building a life that actually holds. So, today I invite you all to join me on this conversation where I think everyone wants, but few actually understand, which is on accountability, real discipline, and the slow daily work of building yourself one brick at a time. So, Corey, welcome to the show. I think it's a pleasure to have you here with me and really excited to dig in deeper onto this topic.
Thank you for that introduction, and I appreciate the opportunity to chit chat with you.
Likewise. So, Corey, before we get into the bigger themes, all right, I want to start somewhere with your story. So, looking back, was there a specific moment in your life that when you stopped relying on, you know, um, temporary motivation, or what do you call it, the hype, and realized that the only thing that was actually going to build the life that you wanted was structure?
Well, I mean, that was sort of baked in at a very early age, thanks to my parents, which were, both of them were huge proponents of independence and self-reliance. In order to be independent and self-reliance, you have to have some sort of structure to get things done. And, as I rose through the ranks, through school, early jobs, athletics, you figure out that, at least I did, my experience, talent is very overrated. The ability to work hard, to hustle, and adhere to a regiment, that is the prize. And if you can do that, you can actually outdo folks that are talented all the time.
Yes, I think I've heard that one, and that really resonates with me because obviously talent can give you that extra mile start, head start in a marathon, but it's obviously that structure, the discipline that really takes you far, right? It's the same story as the tortoise and the rabbit, perhaps. And I think there's really a misconception, Corey, that about accountability and discipline that's really, I would say, is floating around, particularly right now in the digital media age. So I think half of it is too soft. Just listen to your feelings, and a lot of people also dwell in do the thing that comes to you in the moment. That spontaneity, right? And not necessarily that. Um, Maybe, yeah, productivity, yes, it does indeed help with productivity, but not necessarily, it does helps with any kind of structure. And on the other side, it could be too harsh, like you got to stick to a particular routine and, structure, and that's how you build accountability and a life for yourself. So I'm curious to know, is there a concrete direction, perhaps, that you would want to stick with, on either side, or is there a degree of both that you're looking for that you think you would want rather stick to? And is there really a misunderstanding if someone rather picks a side, or what is that you would want to really uh, put forth?
Well, I'll tell you, in all honesty, I tend to lean to one side of that polarity you just mentioned. And you can probably guess which one that is. Um, uh, you know, you have to, if you want to be successful in your life, if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, a successful athlete, a successful artist, whatever your choice is, you have to be able to take relentless action minus emotion. The reality is, the world is a very cruel and unforgiving place. I don't mean that people are cruel and unforgiving, but the way the world works is no one's going to meet you halfway. It's up to you to get things done. And if you're sitting around worrying about how you feel and how other people feel about you, you will be stuck. Action trumps everything. Everything. You can sit around when you're thinking, okay, thought and strategy and planning are all overrated. execution, application, and implementation will crush all three of those things. Give me someone that takes action and is relentless and put them up against a really smart person that thinks, my guy's going to win every time. I love smart people. I love dealing with smart people who are immersed in thought. You know why? Because I hire them. They work for me.
Hmm.
Okay? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that distinction really does matters, because I think most people would rather even stick to in between of that polarity that I talked about, and because most people, I think that discipline is about being hard on themselves, but what you're really describing is something that is more honest, that being faithful to yourself, and especially on the days when nobody's watching you, right? And that really does the job for you. Maybe not on on the micro level, but definitely on the macro level. So if we stay with that, Corey, for a few seconds here, underneath that surface struggle to really stay accountable, there's almost a deeper and a older pattern at play from the high achievers that you work with in your day-to-day life. So what's the root layer that you think keeps people stuck even when they look like they have it all together on the outside?
The thing that where most people get stuck on is consistency. Okay? Anybody can be taught to do a specific tasks or a series of tasks in a certain order. But who can do them day in and day out without an immediate result? Though that is the separation. That's what takes the learning. That's what needs to be calloused in the mind, because we're in an instant gratification society. You're a young man. I don't want to guess your age, but you've grown up with everything at the touch of a button. Okay. The reality is life doesn't work that way. It requires a series of steps in a certain order. Like there's an expression, you can't get to success on the elevator. You got to take the stairs step by step. And if you can be able to withstand the monotony and the drudgery of doing
I love that.
these things without getting that result you want, sticking to the process and not focusing on the result, which sounds so counterintuitive to most people because they're saying, well, I'm not getting the result. I'm not making any money. I'm not getting any sales, or I'm not getting any clients, whatever that is, or I'm not getting in shape. I'm not losing the weight. I'm not getting any stronger, etc.
Mhm.
You have to understand it takes time. I don't know, have you ever heard of something called the Stonecutter's Credo?
No, but just to add on to that, I think that's also because they are perhaps looking at the wrong things. I mean, think about it like you hit the gym for the very first day, let's say, right? There's nothing changed, but almost there's that little bit of exhaustion and tiredness that comes into play. That I mean, most people really don't look at the small changes that happens on an atomic level. They would rather look at it from their goal perspective, that okay, is this making me money or not? But they wouldn't see that, okay, whether it made something better with the process. Maybe if you're looking at a client workflow, or maybe if they're looking at breaking a process down to an atomic level, did that really increase the efficiency by 5%, 6%? No. Is it making money? that's
Could be
that's what people
1%.
see.
Could
Yeah,
be
it
a
could be 1%, right?
yes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think while there would be days where maybe okay, it was a bad day, you really didn't make any progress, but most of the days, that is, even if that's 0.1, you got to be optimistic, and you know um you got to jot that down on a piece of paper, and think harder on what that day, I mean, what was your really output on that day. Did you make something better by 1%? Could be a body, could be a relationship, could be a work. And that's the way you can force yourself to see the progress, even when it looks very monotonous, like you said, Corey. And I think that is something that most people in my generation, at least, don't want to admit. So curious to know your thoughts.
It's something that is tied to the millennial generation, but it is
Mhm.
also chronic for generations before that. I can tell you because I work with people that are boomers still. I work with people that are Gen X like me. um, and the ability to withstand the pain and the discomfort in any way you want it, shape, or form to get to their goal. Most people are not cut out for that. If they were, they wouldn't need to hire a guy like me because I'm there to show them if you stick to a certain pattern, you develop a pattern of accomplishment. And that pattern of accomplishment gains compound interest over time. It's like a bank account because you start stacking all these little wins you achieve. And then, one win becomes two, two becomes four, four becomes eight, et cetera, et cetera. And then exponentially down the road, you start to really score. And most folks just aren't cut out for that. And what I try to do is not just give them lessons and consult with them, but I also try to lead by example by doing the same small steps myself and showing that I walk the walk and not just talk the talk in everything that I do.
That I think that is really a good way to set the example, Corey. And I think that's a very useful answer because I think that the thing that people skip is almost the thing that rest of the system really really depends upon, because once they stop skipping it, I think that's when the structure quietly starts to hold in a way that maybe it was not doing so before, or maybe you didn't like I said, had the perspective to look at it that way before. So I'm curious to know, for the listeners who are listening to this right now, um because we have had, I mean, situations where there would be obviously be missed days, sloppy weeks, and weeks where the structure really cracks because, again, you look at life, it's never linear. There would be uncertainty all the way up and down. But when someone you work with, let's say, hits one of those moments and starts spiraling into, I'm back to square one, what do you really tell them so that they really don't undo all the efforts and the breaks that they have already laid?
There's a couple of tips and techniques we can employ when someone regresses or falls into a rut or gets back to old habits. The first thing is have amnesia. Learn to have amnesia, to forget where you've stumbled and just focus on what's 200 feet in front of you. We talk about that all the time. And the other thing is to write things down. You mentioned that first. That's a big component of the go get it way. We talk about go get it here all the time in my business. And to be able to document with discipline, DISS, not DISC. And if you're writing things down and it's right there in front of you on that piece of paper, all you have to do is follow the blueprint. And you don't have to worry about, did I forget? Did I think about doing this task? Whatever it is. If you're writing things down consistently, and we talked about consistency, and you're simply crossing things off the list and going to the next item, it's very hard to fall off track.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit of flavor to that aspect, definitely you could add more progress by structuring your day out. But I want to shift the conversation a little bit towards that a creative field of work, Cody, just out of curiosity, because I think creative people are the most important creative fields, maybe, filmmaking or into music production, stuff like that. Because I am a corporate, but I also am into music production as well. So I mean, at times there are situations where you have a lot of half pending stuff, half finished plans, songs, habits. You don't really have somewhere new to start. I mean, we call it the writer's block. That is a point where you have run out of ideas. So from that point of view, I mean, what's something practical that you could think of that you would tell them to lay this week, maybe, that so that they could pick up their pieces and start finishing what they were supposed to?
Sure. Well, it's very interesting how you mentioned, the creative business. I'm uniquely qualified to answer this question. And maybe
Okay.
before you asked it, but if not, I'm going to tell you. So, before becoming a life and high performance and marketing and business coach in 2018, for 27 years, I ran a national audio and video production studio. We make
Wow.
money all over the world. Okay. So I'm very fluent in audio production, video production, actors, actresses, voiceover announcers, copywriting, visual design, etc. All those people worked for me. Okay. I oversaw the entire operation. I sold tens of millions of dollars of inventory of that stuff. So I've had a lot of experience getting creative producers to pull on the same side of the rope so we can get the work done. Okay.
Yeah.
Just know that. It boils down to focus, and it all goes back to structure. It all goes back to writing it down, because when it's written down, it's binary. Most creative minds don't think in a binary fashion. There's a lot of gray. There's a lot of shades of differences of things. There's a lot of subjectivity. When you write things down, it's either on or it's
Mhm.
off. So if you write it
Right.
down, you make the commitment, you cross off that task when it's done. Now, can I be a magical solution for writer's block? That's a whole other animal. Okay, because that just happens to anybody, where they're stuck on, thinking of a creative idea for a song or a
Mm.
script or a
Yeah.
painting or a digital design. That's something that I'm not qualified to teach people. Okay, but
Mm.
if you're sitting idly and not getting anything done and not getting paid attention, I have the unique ability to take a size 14 shoe and implement it in the right area of your behind to get it done.
Yeah, I think and that's an important reframe because again the way that you pulled it back to structure, I think that really answers that piece of uncertainty. And I think missing a day isn't really a proof that that structure is really broken. I think it's often the place that you find the time to be more honest with yourself. Like you said, when you write that down, you start recognizing and maybe self introspecting, and that starts, I think, being built on something that's more durable than just motivation, right?
Here's
So
here's the
one.
reality. Structure is
Yeah.
boring. Structure is very boring. And most um, entrepreneurs, or, people want spice. They want
Hmm.
shiny objects. They want fancy. And success is not fancy. They think it is, but it's not. It's boring. I am very boring. I'm also very successful. I do the same things every day. If you ever wanted to, please don't, if you ever wanted to assassinate me, you know exactly where I would be at any given day, at any given time, because I'm doing the same things. I get up at 4 in the morning. I go to the gym at 5. I eat my meals. I go to the gym a second time. I have my appointments, et cetera, et cetera. But with that system, with that process, I don't have to think about what I'm going to do every day. It's on autopilot, because I've developed a habit. I rock a routine. Folks that are stuck, folks that are
Mm.
lost, folks that are in neutral, that aren't progressing every day, they simply do not have a routine, or they had a routine and they don't stick to it. They give themselves an excuse not to. That's what it boils down to. It's not, I wish there was some very academic explanation, some theory that would say, very fancy theory like why certain things work. No, no, it's real simple. You don't have a routine, you don't stick to it, you're
Yeah.
gonna suck. You don't want to, if you
Yeah.
don't want to suck, develop a routine. It's painless.
I love the way you brought it down to just one sentence, and I perhaps I think that's really the best note to wrap this up on. But just before we wind this off, I would love to ask you one question. So
Sure.
for listeners who are listening to this right now, uh, who might be questioning themselves that they do need a break now. Um, Curious to know, would you frame that as an excuse, or would you frame that as the right intention, perhaps, to get back to themselves?
Look, I mean, we're all human beings here, okay? It's not, you're not breaking the law or there's no punishment if you need to recharge your batteries to take a day to walk away from, the grind.
Mm.
Um, look, it happens. Even the toughest, grittiest of grinders will take a moment to clear their head. Some folks need that more than others, but when that
Mm.
one moment or hour or day turns into multiple days and weeks and months, now you're venturing into procrastination and feet dragging because you're avoiding the hard work. So there's a fine line there between
Yeah.
refreshing yourself and being recharged to go attack the mission, and putting it off, and you know under the guise, under the excuse of, I need a break. A lot of folks
Mm.
use that as a crutch.
Oh, I'm so glad that you brought that up, and I think that would serve as an important reminder. So to our listeners, so Corey, for the people who actually resonated with what he talked about, and particularly I really resonate with what he said, because I have the structure when I mean I wake up, I go to my morning walk, come back, work on my creative stuff, go back to work, come back. I mean, this wonderful time where I connect with guests for podcasting and work again and then go to bed. So, I mean, a part of the hustle culture myself, but for people who actually resonated with what you just shared right now and would love to connect with you and get your guidance and coaching advice, where's the best place for them to reach out to you at?
Pretty simple. It's CoreyDissin.com, CoreyDissin.com. I mean, that's my sort of online storefront. You can connect with me on my social media platforms there. I'm really big into LinkedIn. You can look for me there to invite me to connect. And, I put out a ton of content. I'm an avid content marketer, several posts per day, every day. But yeah, I mean, I often joke that if you Google my name and you can't find me, boy, did I have you fooled. Um, I mean, because I'm out there. It's tough not to find me. That's what I can tell you. Very tough. You just Google me, Corey Dissin, and there'll be multiple places where you can link back to me.
Brilliant. So would have all the links in the show notes so that people could easily reach out to you, Corey. So
Wonderful.
I just want to thank you for sharing such practical stuff on this podcast, because again, I think Healthy Mind is a show in particular that's rooted in practical conversations like this, and a show where we tend to circle back that inner work and outer life aren't separate. They are the same conversation in two different rooms, right? So something that I would want you all to carry forth, folks, is that the life that you want to build uh, isn't actually built in one single sprint. I think it is really built, it's not even built by breaking yourself either, right? It's one honest step at a time through a structure is what you want to accomplish and how you want to accomplish, because again, there are three aspects to it, right? And I call it the what, why, and how. What is the thing that well, statistically 80% of us know, okay, what am I, what do I want? The why aspect of it is slightly trickier. Why do I want it? And that's a part where some of us get stuck, wandering off, but eventually come back to it. But how is the process that we talked about today, Corey? So the how is the part that statistically 1 out of 2 are not able to solve. You want to be an actress, okay? You want to be, you want to launch a company. You have your own vision. I mean, that's a number, right, on a statistical level. So I think we really, I hope you folks have been able to take some of the important key takeaways from this conversation on that how aspect. And with that, folks, unfortunately we hit today's minute mark on this episode. So yeah, this has been Sayan on Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. And if you have been on this show and you've stuck with us for this long, just want to take for you to take a moment and reflect on perhaps where you might be lacking that structure. And this has been Sayan, and I'll see you in the next one.